There's a strange moment in life that almost everyone feels but very few can explain. It's not total failure, but it's not comfort either. It's that in-between space where yesterday doesn't quite fit anymore, and tomorrow hasn't fully arrived. You wake up restless, not because something's wrong, but because something deeper is calling you to move. Most people mislabel it. They say, I'm lost. They say, I'm stuck. They say, I'm broken. But you're not broken. You're in what I call the quantum transitivo. And when you learn to recognize it, everything changes. Think about it this way. When a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, it doesn't just grow wings overnight. There's a messy, uncomfortable in-between stage where it dissolves into something unrecognizable. If you opened the cocoon too early, you wouldn't see a butterfly or a caterpillar. You'd see chaos. But hidden inside that chaos is transformation. The same is true for you. That uneasy tension, that sense that your old life doesn't fit anymore, is not a breakdown. It's the evidence of a breakthrough in progress. Most people retreat from this feeling. They numb it with distractions. Endless scrolling, cheap entertainment, shallow conversations, anything to avoid the discomfort. But here's the truth. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's your guide. That restless pressure in your chest, that whisper in your mind, is not saying stop. It's saying, wait, pay attention. Because this moment, as uncomfortable as it is a threshold. On one side is the life you've known. On the other is the life you're capable of living. The quantum transitivo is that bridge, and you can either run back to the familiar or step forward into the unknown. But let me ask you, which choice will you thank yourself for 5 years from now? Will you look back and say, I let fear dictate my future? Or will you look back and say, that was the moment I stepped through the door that changed everything? See, the beauty of the transitivo is that it demands honesty. It strips away illusions. You can't hide behind excuses in this space. You can't pretend that you're fulfilled when you're not. The in-between forces you to admit what you've been tolerating. It shines a light on the gap between who you are and who you know you could be. And yes, that hurts. But that hurt is medicine. It's meant to wake you up. Here's the shift. Instead of saying, I'm stuck, say, I'm in transit. Instead of saying, I'm lost, say, I'm crossing over. Language matters. Because the words you use frame the way your brain interprets reality. Call it failure and you'll shrink. Call it transition and you'll rise. Try this right now. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left, write one thing you know you're leaving behind. A habit, a job, a mindset, a relationship that no longer serves you. On the right, write one thing you're moving toward. Clarity, freedom, discipline, growth, whatever it is. Then underneath, write one small step you can take today to move closer to that right side. Not a huge step. Not a leap. Just one step. Because one step taken in the right direction is more powerful than 1,000 excuses. This is how you reclaim control inside the quantum transitivo. You stop seeing it as a prison and start seeing it as a passage. You stop waiting for permission and start creating momentum. And the more momentum you create, the clearer the next step becomes. So don't run from the chaos. Don't numb it. Don't bury it. Recognize it. Name it, respect it. Because this is not the end of your story. It's the messy, necessary middle. And if you have the courage to walk through it, you will look back one day and realize that this uncomfortable, restless, chaotic season was the exact moment when your real life began. There's a moment in every person's life where the line is drawn. On one side of that line is blame, pointing fingers, waiting for circumstances to change, hoping someone else will fix it. On the other side of that line is ownership, full, radical, uncompromising responsibility. That moment when you stop saying, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what am I going to do about it? That's the moment you reclaim your power. Understand this, responsibility is not about fault. It's not about beating yourself up for the things that happened to you. Many of those things were out of your control. But here's the truth that separates those who rise from those who sink. While you may not be responsible for what happened to you, you are always responsible for how you respond. That's the difference between being a victim of your story and being the author of it. Think about a storm. Two people can be caught in the same downpour. One curses the rain, blames the sky, and waits for it to stop. The other puts up a shelter, gathers wood, and builds a fire. Both face the same storm. The difference is response. Responsibility is the discipline of choosing your response with intention, not surrendering it to impulse. But here's where most people get stuck. They think responsibility is too heavy. They think it means carrying everything on their back. No. Responsibility isn't a burden, it's liberation. Because the moment you take ownership, you stop waiting. You stop depending. You stop delaying your life until conditions are perfect. Responsibility says, I don't need perfect conditions. I will create progress with what I have right now. Let's make this practical. Every morning, ask yourself 3 questions. What outcome do I want today? What action will I take to move toward it? What excuse am I most likely to use? And how will I crush it? Write those 3 answers down. Put them somewhere visible. That list becomes your daily contract with yourself. And when life throws its chaos at you, because it will, you already know the answer. You already know the move. That's responsibility in action. Another practice, draw a circle on a page. Inside it, write down everything you control. Your choices, your habits, your mindset, your discipline. Around that, draw a second ring and list the things you can influence. Your relationships, your environment, your opportunities. Then draw the outer ring and list what you cannot control. Politics, the economy, the weather, other people's choices. Most people waste 80% of their energy on that outer ring. Radical responsibility means withdrawing that wasted energy and investing it back into the inner ring. That's where leverage lives. When you take responsibility, you stop negotiating with excuses. You stop saying, I didn't have time. No, you didn't make time. You stop saying, it's too hard. No, you decided comfort was easier. It's not about shame. It's about clarity. Because once you name the truth, you can change it. And when you change it, momentum follows. And here's the deeper power. Responsibility builds trust. When you consistently own your part, at work, in relationships, in leadership, people notice. They respect it, they follow it. Because ownership is magnetic, nobody is inspired by excuses, but everyone is moved by someone who says, I'll handle it. I'll own it. I'll make it happen. That's influence born from responsibility. So here's the challenge. Today, pick one area of your life where you've been pointing fingers and flip it. Say out loud, this is my responsibility now. Then take one small action to prove it. Doesn't matter how small, just something tangible. Do that daily and you'll start to see a different life take shape. Because radical responsibility is the gateway. It's the point where the quantum transitivo, that in-between space, turns into progress. Without responsibility, you stay stuck on the platform. With responsibility, you get on the train. And once you're on that train, nothing and no one can stop where you're going. Most people drift through life reacting. They wake up, check their phone, rush into the noise of the day, and let the hours pull them wherever they want. Days become weeks, weeks become years, and before they know it, they're standing in a life they never chose, just one they tolerated. But winners, leaders, visionaries, they don't live like that. They don't stumble into their destiny by accident. They decide the end first. Think of it like this. No builder starts pouring concrete without a blueprint. No pilot takes off without a destination. Yet so many of us wake up every day without a clear picture of where we're heading. And then we wonder why we feel lost, why we feel scattered, why life feels like it's happening to us instead of through us. The truth is, if you don't decide your destination, life will hand you one. And I promise you this, and it won't be the one you dreamed of. So what does it mean to decide the end first? It means you choose the story you want your life to tell. Before circumstances, before distractions, before fear tries to write it for you. It means you anchor yourself to a vision so clear that when storms come, you don't lose direction. It means you stop living by chance and start living by choice. Here's the exercise. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine 5 years from now. Be specific. Where do you wake up? Who's next to you? What kind of work fills your day? What do you see when you look in the mirror, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually? Don't say, I want to be happy. Happiness is too vague. Say, I want to live in this city with this kind of health, running this kind of business, surrounded by this kind of family or community. Paint the picture with color, not in black and white. Why? Because your brain is a goal-seeking machine. It filters decisions, opportunities, even the people you attract, through the lens of what you believe is possible. If the end is blurry, your daily decisions will be blurry. But if the end is vivid, your decisions become magnetic. Every choice you make either pulls you closer or pushes you further. And when you know what the end looks like, You stop saying yes to what doesn't belong. Write it down. Create a simple vision statement, not a paragraph full of buzzwords, but one page that describes a day in your ideal life. Then, read it every morning. Pair it with one action that aligns with that vision. If your end is fitness, put on your shoes and run a mile. If your end is financial freedom, study one page of a wealth-building book. If your end is leadership, practice one conversation today that lifts someone higher. Vision is only powerful when paired with action. And here's the trap most people fall into. They think vision means waiting for the right time. No. Deciding the end first is not about waiting. It's about aligning now. You don't wait until the end to start living like the person you want to become. You start behaving like that person now, and the end becomes inevitable. Imagine this. Two people start a journey. One says, "I'll just walk and see where the road takes me." The other says, "I'm heading to the mountain peak." Which one do you think gets there? Which one has endurance when the path gets steep? It's the one who already decided the end. That's the power of vision. It gives pain a purpose, it gives effort a direction, it gives sacrifice a meaning. So decide your end first. Write it, see it, live it. Let that future version of you pull you forward when today feels heavy. Because without vision, you wander. But with vision, even the smallest steps start to feel like destiny unfolding. Life constantly places us at crossroads, choices big and small that quietly shape the trajectory of our future. And at each crossroad, you will either choose based on preference or on principle. The difference between the two is the difference between a life of regret and a life of meaning. Preferences are emotional. They're short-term. They're impulsive. They scream the loudest in the moment. I don't feel like working out. I don't feel like showing up today. I don't feel like having that tough conversation. But principles whisper. They don't shout. They're steady, quiet, but immovable. Principles are the deep commitments that don't bend to moods, temptations, or circumstances. They are your compass when the map is unclear. Here's the truth. If you let your life be run by preferences, you'll constantly trade long-term gain for short-term comfort. And comfort, as we've already seen, is a liar. But when you anchor yourself to principles, you create consistency. You create strength. You create trust, not only in the eyes of others, but in your own eyes. And that self-trust, that ability to look at yourself and know you will do what you said you'd do, is the foundation of confidence. Think about great leaders throughout history. They weren't led by their moods. They weren't driven by convenience. They operated from principle. Whether it was justice, service, courage, or discipline, they made choices based on something unshakable. That's why people followed them. Not because they were perfect, but because they were anchored. Now let's get practical. I want you to identify 3 principles that you will not compromise on. Just 3. Don't make a list of 20. You won't live them. Pick 3 and carve them into your character like stone. For example, integrity. I tell the truth even when it costs me. Discipline. I keep my commitments, especially to myself. Growth. I invest in learning and improvement daily. Yours may look different, but they should be values you are willing to defend even when it's inconvenient. Then, use those principles as a filter. When a decision comes, before you act, ask, does this align with my principles? If the answer is no, then the decision is already made. Here's why this matters. Preferences will make you inconsistent. One day you'll be motivated, the next you won't. And when you live inconsistently, people don't know where you stand. Opportunities pass you by. Trust erodes. But principles make you reliable. They make you predictable in the best way. People can count on you. And more importantly, you can count on you. This is how you win the long game. Because life will test you. You will face pressure, temptation, and distraction. And when those moments come, if you're running on preferences, you will fold. But if you're running on principle, you'll hold the line. And every time you hold the line, your character strengthens. Every time you hold the line, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more. and that proof becomes fuel for the next challenge. So here's the challenge for you. Today, write down your 3 principles. Post them somewhere you'll see them. On your desk, on your mirror, on your phone. And live by them, not when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. Because it's in the difficult moments that principles separate the average from the exceptional. At the end of your life, you won't be remembered for what you preferred. Nobody will care that you preferred watching TV over reading or sleeping in over building your dream. You will be remembered for the principles you lived by, the unshakable truths that guided your choices. So stop living by moods. Start living by principles. Because principles don't just shape decisions, they shape destinies. A surgeon walks into the operating room with one mission: save the patient. There is no wasted movement, no scattered focus, no unnecessary action. Every decision, every tool, every cut has a purpose. Why? Because in surgery, distractions cost lives. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Distractions are costing you your life. Not in the literal sense, but in the sense of time, and time is your life. Every scroll, every mindless hour, every "I'll do it later" is a piece of your life you can never get back. And when you add them up, those pieces become years. That's why you must learn to prioritize like a surgeon. You must treat your time, your focus, your energy as sacred. Because they are. Most people live their days like amateurs in the operating room, flustered, distracted, reacting to every beep, every buzz, every noise. They say yes to everything and wonder why they feel drained. They chase everything and wonder why they catch nothing. But winners, the ones who build extraordinary lives, they operate differently. They cut away the non-essential. They identify what truly matters and give it surgical focus. Here's the principle. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every call, not every meeting, not every opportunity. In fact, most of them don't. If everything is important, nothing is. So how do you prioritize like a surgeon? You start by asking the most powerful question you can ask. What is essential? Not urgent. Not convenient, not popular, essential. The thing that, if done, moves your life forward in the direction you truly want to go. And once you know what's essential, you protect it ruthlessly. You cut away the noise. You say no, unapologetically. Because here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something meaningless, you're saying no to something that could change your life. Think about it like this. Imagine a surgeon halfway through heart surgery deciding to check their phone, reply to a few emails, or scroll social media. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Because it is. Yet most people treat their most important work with that same carelessness. You need to elevate your focus. When it's time to work, it's time to work. When it's time to build, it's time to build. Cut out the distractions with precision. Build boundaries. Guard your energy. Don't apologize for protecting your mission, because if you don't, nobody else will. Here's an exercise. Write down the top 3 things that matter most in your life right now. Just 3. Then ask yourself, how much of my time, energy, and focus is actually going toward these things? You might be shocked at the gap between what matters most and what consumes you daily. Close that gap. Realign your actions with your priorities, and understand this. Prioritization isn't just about efficiency, it's about identity. Every decision you make is shaping who you are becoming. If you consistently prioritize distractions, you're training yourself to be scattered, reactive, average. But if you consistently prioritize essentials, you're training yourself to be focused, disciplined, exceptional. Life rewards focus. It rewards clarity. It rewards those who know what they want and are willing to say no to everything that doesn't serve that mission. And yes, it will cost you. You will lose opportunities, invitations, even relationships. But what you gain is far greater, the life you were meant to live. So here's the challenge. Starting today, operate like a surgeon. Walk into your day with precision. Decide what matters most and cut away everything else. Because distractions aren't just stealing your attention, they're stealing your future. And if you don't take control now, one day you'll look back and realize the patient on the table, your dreams, your potential, didn't make it. Most people think influence is about talking. about having the right words, the sharpest arguments, the most convincing delivery. But the truth? Influence begins where your voice stops and your ears open. Influence begins with listening. When you listen deeply, not waiting for your turn to speak, not rehearsing your response, but genuinely seeking to understand, something powerful happens. People feel seen. They feel valued. And when people feel understood, they naturally lean toward you, because real listening builds trust, and trust is the foundation of influence. Think about it. When was the last time someone really listened to you? Not halfway, not distracted, not multitasking, but fully present, locked in, making you feel like your words mattered. You probably walked away from that interaction feeling respected, maybe even inspired. That's the power of deep listening. It creates connection, and connection creates influence. Here's where most people go wrong. They try to persuade before they understand. They throw solutions at people without knowing the real problem. They push their agenda without understanding the other person's perspective. And because of that, their influence falls flat. But when you listen first, you uncover leverage points that persuasion alone will never find. You see what truly matters to someone, their fears, their motivations, their hidden drivers. And once you understand that, your words carry weight. Great leaders, mentors, and communicators know this. They don't just speak, they tune in. They ask questions that go beyond the surface. They create space for silence. They reflect back what they hear. And in doing so, they don't just influence decisions. They influence hearts. Now let's bring this closer to your life. Whether you're leading a team, raising a family, building a business, or even just navigating relationships, influence is everywhere. And the people who rise are not those who dominate conversations, but those who create trust through understanding. So how do you practice deep listening? Be fully present. Put the phone down. Eliminate distractions. Give the person in front of you the same attention you would want if your future depended on their response, because it just might. Ask powerful questions. Don't settle for surface-level answers. Ask why, ask how. Dig deeper until you uncover the real story beneath the words. Validate without judgment. You don't have to agree with everything someone says, but you do have to respect their perspective. A simple, "I hear you," or "that makes sense from where you're coming from," can open doors that arguments will slam shut. Reflect back. Repeat in your own words what you've understood. This shows you're paying attention and gives the other person a chance to clarify. When you do this consistently, something shifts. You stop trying to manipulate people into your way of thinking. Instead, you align your influence with their truth. And that's genuine influence, and not forced, not pressured, but earned. Here's the paradox. The less you try to control people, the more impact you have on them. Because influence isn't about overpowering someone's will. It's about aligning with their deepest needs and showing them a way forward. And you can't do that unless you first understand them. So here's the challenge. This week, in every conversation that matters, listen more than you speak. Don't aim to win the conversation. Aim to understand it. You'll be surprised how much more power your words carry once they are built on the foundation of listening. Because in the end, influence is not about volume. It's not about talking louder, pushing harder, or outsmarting the other person. Influence is about resonance. And resonance comes when you've listened so deeply that your words speak directly to what someone already feels inside. Influence begins when you listen. Influence lasts when you care. Influence transforms when it's genuine. Real power is not found in the lone struggle of carrying everything on your shoulders. Real power comes when you stop trying to do it all yourself and start building alignment, synergy, and systems that multiply what you do best. Too many people believe strength is proven in isolation, that if they can grind harder, push longer, and carry more weight alone, they will finally prove themselves. But that belief is a trap. It keeps you stuck in exhaustion, wearing fatigue like a badge of honor while your true potential lies dormant. One person can do a lot, but one person cannot do everything. Think about a symphony. A single violin can play a beautiful melody, but an orchestra creates an experience that shakes the soul. The violin doesn't try to become the trumpet. The cello doesn't try to become the drums. Each instrument owns its role, and when those roles align, the result is breathtaking. That's the essence of synergy. Not trying to be everything, but bringing your best and letting others bring theirs. This is where most people fail. They spend their lives obsessed with weaknesses, pouring time and energy into what drains them, hoping to fix what they were never meant to master. Winners don't play that game. Winners double down on their strengths and surround themselves with people and systems that cover the gaps. Instead of being average at many things, they choose to be exceptional at a few, and then align with others to fill the rest. That's where multiplication begins. If you study history, you'll see this principle everywhere. Every great leader, every innovator, every visionary we celebrate was never truly alone. Behind every name in the spotlight were teams, allies, and networks that magnified their vision. One person lit the match, but it took many to keep the fire burning. True strength has never been solo force. It has always been the alignment of talents working toward one mission. This isn't just about business or leadership. It's about life itself. In relationships, synergy builds resilience. In communities, synergy fuels progress. Even in personal growth, synergy matters, because you can build systems, habits, and routines that support your strengths and free you to stay in your zone of genius. When you create those supports, you stop fighting against yourself and start flowing with who you are. Imagine how different your life could look if, instead of being drained by what you're weak at, you were energized daily by what you do best. Imagine if the hours you waste on tasks that steal your energy were replaced by hours spent in your highest potential, with others amplifying your effort. That is not addition, that is multiplication, and it's what separates those who survive from those who create lasting impact. The truth is, lone wolves burn out. They look powerful for a moment, but they collapse under the weight of their own pride. Those who rise to greatness are the ones who know how to align, how to connect, and how to multiply their strengths through others. They don't fear surrounding themselves with talented people. They embrace it. Because the goal is not to outshine everyone. The goal is to build something so much bigger than yourself that it cannot be ignored. So stop glorifying the grind of doing everything alone. Stop chasing the illusion that strength is measured by exhaustion. Real power is measured by multiplication. It is built when you pour yourself into what you do best and create systems, teams, and alignments that carry the rest. That is how ordinary effort transforms into extraordinary impact. And that is how your life stops being a solo performance and becomes a symphony. The strongest edge in the world will eventually grow dull if it is never sharpened. It doesn't matter how sharp the blade once was. It doesn't matter how powerful the strike used to feel. If you don't renew, you fade. And this is where so many people fall short. They start strong, full of energy, passion, and drive, but they forget that stamina is not a gift you receive once. Stamina is a practice. It is something you cultivate daily. Like sharpening the saw so the edge never loses its bite. Life will drain you. Work, relationships, setbacks, even victories, they all take energy. And if you never replenish what you spend, if you never stop to rebuild, eventually you will burn out. That's why you see so many people who once had fire in their eyes now walking through life with exhaustion, bitterness, or indifference. They thought pushing endlessly was strength. But strength without renewal becomes weakness. Renewal is not laziness. Renewal is not escape. Renewal is strategy. It's the process of keeping your body, mind, heart, and spirit in alignment so you can keep showing up at your highest level. Physical renewal means treating your body like the vehicle that carries your dreams, not the cage that traps them. Emotional renewal means giving yourself permission to rest, to feel, to release instead of letting pain harden into poison. Mental renewal is feeding your mind with learning, with reflection, with clarity. And spiritual renewal is remembering the deeper why behind all that you do, reconnecting with the meaning that keeps you alive inside. If you neglect any one of these, you dull your edge. You can be physically strong but emotionally unstable, mentally sharp but spiritually empty. Balance matters because you are not one-dimensional. You are a whole being, and every part of you requires fuel. Think of the people you admire most, the ones who seem unstoppable. They aren't just grinding endlessly. They've learned how to cycle between effort and renewal, between giving and restoring, between fire and water. That's why they can sustain momentum while others burn out. So ask yourself honestly, are you renewing, or are you running yourself into the ground? Are you taking time to sharpen your edge, or are you swinging a dull blade, wondering why the work feels heavier every day? Renewal is not selfish, it is preparation. It is what allows you to keep moving when others quit. It is what allows you to stay consistent when others fade. It is what makes you dangerous, not just today, but 10 years from now. The ones who endure are not the ones who sprint blindly. The ones who endure are those who learn to renew constantly. Because stamina is not about pushing harder. Stamina is about sharpening smarter. And the sharper you are, the longer you last and the deeper your impact becomes.